In a small, rural town, a series of gruesome murders took place during the full moon. The victims were all brutally slaughtered, with bodies torn apart by what seemed to be claws and teeth. The townsfolk were terrified, whispering about a werewolf in their midst. The killer was revealed to be none other than the town's beloved butcher, Marcel. By day, Marcel was a friendly, hardworking man who supplied the town with fresh meat. By night, under the full moon, he transformed into a savage werewolf, driven by an insatiable hunger for human flesh. Marcel's transformations were not just physical. His mind was also consumed by a primal urge to hunt and kill. He would stalk his victims, often targeting those who had wronged him in some way. The townsfolk had no idea that the man they trusted to cut their meat was the monster that haunted their dreams. As the full moon approached, Marcel's transformations became more frequent and more brutal. He would slaughter entire families, leaving behind a trail of blood and gore. The townsfolk were paralyzed with fear, unable to comprehend the horror that lurked among them. One victim, a young woman named Sophia, was attacked by Marcel in her own home. She managed to survive the initial attack, but was left severely disfigured. Sophia's testimony would later become crucial in identifying Marcel as the killer. A group of townsfolk, led by Sophia's brother, determined to hunt down the werewolf. They tracked Marcel to an abandoned slaughterhouse on the outskirts of town, where they found evidence of his crimes. The air was thick with the stench of death, and the ground was slick with blood. As they confronted Marcel, he transformed into his werewolf form. The hunters were shocked by the sight of their neighbor in his monstrous state. Marcel's eyes glowed yellow in the dark, and his jaws were wide open, revealing razor-sharp teeth. The hunters fought bravely, but Marcel's strength and ferocity proved to be too much for them. One by one, they fell to his claws and teeth. Just when it seemed like Marcel would emerge victorious, Sophia appeared, armed with a shotgun. She had been tracking Marcel for weeks, studying his movements and waiting for the perfect moment to strike. With a steady hand and a fierce determination, as Marcel, in his werewolf form, charged towards Sophia, she stood her ground, firing shot after shot. But Marcel's regenerative abilities allowed him to shrug off the wounds, and he continued his relentless assault. Sophia's shotgun clicked empty, and Marcel seized the opportunity to attack. He pinned her to the ground, his jaws wide open, ready to deliver the fatal blow. Sophia remembered the words of an old legend about werewolves being vulnerable to silver, and she recalled the silver pendant her grandmother had given her. With a surge of adrenaline, Sophia grabbed the pendant and jammed it into Marcel's neck. The werewolf let out a deafening scream as the silver burned his flesh, giving Sophia just enough time to scramble free. Marcel, enraged and wounded, launched himself at Sophia with renewed ferocity. The two engaged in a desperate, brutal fight. Sophia used every ounce of strength she had to fend off Marcel's attacks, but the werewolf's power was overwhelming. Just when it seemed like all was lost, Sophia spotted a nearby pipe lying on the ground. With a swift grab, she swung the pipe with all her might, connecting it squarely with Marcel's skull. The impact was immense, and Marcel stumbled back, momentarily stunned. Sophia seized the opportunity to end the fight once and for all. With a fierce determination, she grabbed a nearby axe and swung it with all her might, striking Marcel with a powerful blow that cleaved his skull in two. The werewolf's body collapsed to the ground, lifeless. As Sophia stood over Marcel's corpse, she felt a mix of relief and horror. She had survived the brutal fight, but the memory of the carnage would haunt her forever. The town was finally safe, but the trauma of Marcel's attacks would leave a lasting scar. Sophia walked away from the slaughterhouse, the axe still clutched in her hand, her eyes fixed on the horizon. She knew that she would never be the same again, that the experience had changed her in ways she was still discovering. Sophia thought she had finally found peace after defeating Marcel. She returned to her normal life, but the memories of the brutal fight continued to haunt her. She began to experience strange, vivid dreams, and her body started to undergo inexplicable changes. As the days passed, Sophia noticed that her senses were becoming more acute, and her body was growing stronger. She tried to brush it off as a side effect of the trauma she had endured, but deep down, she knew something was wrong. One full moon night, Sophia felt an overwhelming urge to transform. She tried to resist, but her body betrayed her. She felt her muscles stretch, her bones crack, and her skin itch as her body morphed into a werewolf. Sophia was horrified as she realized she had inherited Marcel's curse. She was now a monster, just like the man she had killed. The revelation shook her to her core, and she didn't know how to cope with her newfound identity. As she ran through the forest, feeling the thrill of her newfound power, Sophia knew she had to find a way to control her transformations. But the beast within her was growing stronger, and she feared she would soon lose herself completely. Sophia's transformations became more frequent, and she struggled to maintain her human identity. She began to lose control, surrendering to the primal urges of the werewolf. Her human friends and family grew concerned, noticing the changes in her behavior. One fateful night, Sophia's loved ones confronted her, sensing that something was terribly wrong. But it was too late. Sophia had fully succumbed to the curse, and she attacked her own family, tearing them apart with her razor-sharp claws and teeth. In the end, Sophia was left alone, surrounded by the carnage she had created. She realized that she was not just a victim of circumstance, but a monster, born from the darkness that Marcel's curse had unleashed. As the full moon rose high in the sky, Sophia let out a haunting howl, embracing her true nature. She knew she would never be able to escape the beast within her, and she was doomed to roam the earth, a creature of the night, forever bound to the curse.